What's up, y'all? Kyle Hamilton here. I want to give a quick shout out to Lucas, Connor, and Ryan in the Week 0 podcast.
Jackson rolling out, 3rd and 7 after the penalty, and it's a completion to Kuma. He's still running. Kuma breaks free against a tired defense as the Hokies deliver the dagger here in Tallahassee. Empty look for Richardson. Oh, that is danger! Oh my! Keidron Smith cuts inside, and he's gonna pick six it in the swamp. Cat scratch fever Smith.
DJ is picked off, intercepted again by Benjamin Morrison. Here goes Morrison down the sideline. Can he go? Yes, he can. Touchdown, pick six, Benjamin Morrison. Nix drops back underneath. Touchdown, Ducks. Wow. Chase Taylor.
Is it just me, or is the interception for the Notre Dame player? It always seems like he's running slow as hell. Maybe that's just me. He literally looks like he's literally looks
No,
like
man, it's just because Clemson's entire offense is slow.
Plays for Notre Dame, so I'm sure he's
So,
pretty slow.
as Josh has said, he's left us. He's officially at Barstool now, so he's just gone away.
There you go.
He's left us. But I am your host, Connor Bear Kugites Doherty. We'll talk about that separately, I think. To my left is Ryan, Lakers in 6, Fravel, who will then lose to the Nuggets in 4 games. And below us is Lucas, the Gus boss, is Roland McKnight. Obviously, Gus Edwards, a fantastic running back for the Baltimore Ravens. I have no idea who you're talking about for the Gus boss, but okay.
Gus Malzahn, baby.
Yes,
Gus
sir.
Malzahn. Oh, right. I forgot. He's at UCF. I always forget about that. But, excuse me. So, yeah, today we're going to be talking about the Big 12 conference, doing some early predictions and stuff. And obviously the biggest thing really to kind of talk about is I think the first 4 teams we need to talk about are the new teams joining the conference this year, which is BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF. And now there's gonna be like a few. BYU is just all by itself, like 2 states away from everything else.
Yeah.
They're gonna be all by themselves. It's kind of funny, but yeah, it's kind of crazy that they're expanding like that. I thought it was next year, but that was obviously I think I said no later than the 2024-2025 season. So 2 Cougars, a Bearcat, and a Knight walk into a bar. And the Cougars asked to make sure that Zach Wilson is nowhere near them.
There you go.
Did you guys see speaking of that, did you guys see the Chargers schedule release video?
Yes.
Screw the Chargers. Never watch anything for them.
Dude, you don't have to like
the
them to not like what their social media team did.
I hate the Chargers.
They have the best social media team
You hate
that
them
there
because
is.
they're better
by
than you
far.
in every single
Nah, the Broncos social media team is pretty.
No, it is
Nah, your
does
team's
not touch
rough.
the Chargers, bro.
I don't know. You guys probably did some shitty
Yeah,
ass.
we got Peyton Manning, who's better than any quarterback that's ever suited up for the Chargers, doing our schedule release. So
Cool. You have a
mean-
white dude telling you the games instead of having an animated version of it where there's tons of funny in jokes about every team they're playing. It's hilarious.
To be honest, it doesn't touch the Titans. Schedule
They're a close
release.
second. The Titans did take it this year, but
I will say that the Chargers by far have the best social media out of any team. I mean, it's not even close. Ryan obviously doesn't follow their social media team, so he doesn't know. But I'm telling you right now, they have the best posts out of any NFL team.
And then, of course, you guys are playing the Cowboys twice this year, Lucas.
Yes, we are.
You're playing the Cowboys. You're playing the Red Stallions. You're playing the 49ers, 69ers Stars.
Yeah, dude.
And
We're playing the Texas Texans.
Texans. No, I think it was Texans.
The Texans. We're playing that team doesn't even exist. We're playing.
You're playing the Chester Cheetos that don't actually exist.
Yes, sir.
That was hilarious, and I love how the Falcons changed their Twitter to say Red Stallions earlier today. They changed it. They actually
That's
changed
awesome.
it. And then, of
Red
course, the
Red
Chargers.
Stallions.
The Chargers trolling the Raiders. When you did you hear about this?
They did the Pop-Tarts or whatever.
No. So the Chargers, as part of their thing. Well, I mean that's also they do the Pop-Tarts, but when you click on the Chargers home game versus the Raiders, there pops up two things, and it says I'm a Chargers fan and I'm a Raiders fan. If you click on the I'm a Raiders fan, it takes you to a Google search for how to find a job.
Oh no!
How to get a job.
Oh, I'm guessing. Did they talk anything about the Broncos? They lost to us last year.
Probably
they lost to the Ride.
No, the funny thing they did was they had Patrick Starr facing off against Russell Wilson because Patrick Starr destroyed the shit out of Russell Wilson during that.
Yeah, but
he did.
He was
Awesome.
like, that's not what he wanted to do.
Hey,
That's
what did
not what
Russell
he was
Wilson
trying
do to
to
that
do.
Chargers defense in Week 17?
Yeah, they
Week
still at least made the playoffs.
Week 17, where you guys won your 5th game of the season. Nice.
Yes, we do. And
Hey,
then,
you know what? Leave it to the Chargers to give Russell Wilson his best
I'm trying to
performance
think
of
what
the
else
season.
they did because they did the chart. Obviously, you play the Broncos twice, but I can't remember what they had for the second time that you guys played.
They
the Broncos.
technically should have lost to the Broncos twice last year. If
Cool.
they're
Shoulda, woulda, coulda. You still owe me $500.
So you can't. So technically, you should shut the hell up.
He still owes me $500, but we'll not talk about that.
Ryan owes you $500.
You saw the
Lucas
tweet.
was the tweet?
I have the receipts.
What was the tweet? I can't remember.
No, so he said that Cortland Sutton. This is for the 2021 season, by the way, because we were still in the Harris
He
highlights.
literally got hurt
chat.
Week 1 of 2021.
And he said that Cortland Sutton would win Comeback Player of the Year, and he would have better stats than AJ Brown. And
in 2022.
in 2021,
Oh,
because
okay.
we were still in the Harris highlights chat. So that was back then.
And
So,
Cortland Sutton tore his ACL against.
no, he did not. No, he did not. In
He got
2021, he had at least one catch in all 17 games.
I swore he got hurt in 2021 because he's
And
never
he-
been healthy since 2019.
And he had at least one catch.
Ryan finally admits something bad about his teams. He's
What?
never been,
He
has
never been healthy.
Dude makes a Pro Bowl in 2019 and then tears his ACL back-to-back years, and now it's just he gets injured.
Cool. Let's just go through this. The Big 12 expansion. They are adding 4 new teams. Obviously, we're going to just quickly go through all the teams' FBS schedule. I will just do this again real quick.
And when we since we have a lot more teams for this conference, we don't need to go in depth too much about each individual game.
I'm just going to literally I'm just going to do it in alphabetical order just to make it easy.
So like I said, like we did last time, toughest game, easiest game, trap game if there is one, and overall prediction.
Okay.
There you
Well,
go.
obviously with this, because they're not going to have because now they don't have a nice round number, they're not going to play every single team. Obviously. So my computer would be a little quick. Okay, I'm just going in alphabetical. I'm just going in order the teams, alphabetical order. So,
Baylor.
I think right off the bat, honestly, looking at the games Baylor has, Utah is the hardest. Trap game. I think it could be any of they have 3 of the new teams, UCF, Cincinnati, and Houston. I'd say any of those could be trap games because obviously Baylor won't know what to really think about either of those teams. And easiest game will be West Virginia. I honestly think West Virginia will suck this year.
Ryan,
I'm not sure if Kurt actually
we'll just go from top to bottom.
So I think their hardest game is Utah. I think their easiest game is against the LIU Sharks. No, I'm just kidding. Their easiest game is probably against Houston. Houston was garbage last year. I think they went like 5-7 or 6-6. So I think that's their easiest game. My prediction for them going through this, I think they go. So the first 6 games, I have them going 4-2. Trying to go through this really quick. 2. 7-2. I got them going 8-4. Baylor. I got them making a. They were 2-10 last year. They were kind of in a rebuild mode after losing all their star players from the 2021 Big 12 championship team. They've got a lot of young players now that have had an extra year of experience. And I think Blake Shapen's going to step it up again this year. So 8-4.
Okay, so toughest game, I actually have it as Texas. I think Texas is their toughest game of the season. Easiest game, I agree with Connor and West Virginia. I think West Virginia is going to be awful, especially after JT Daniels left.
Did he graduate or did he transfer out again?
He plays for Rice now.
Oh JT following the route of what the hell
Tate
is
Martell.
Kate Martell.
But better than Tate Martell. Tate Martell didn't even start.
He at least has actually played.
Martell didn't even start for like a 2-win UNLV team, so that just says a lot. But
that's he's one of the craziest stories in college football history, honestly.
Definitely.
Go ahead, Lucas.
Greatest high school quarterback of all time is Tate Martell. But anyways, toughest game Texas, easiest game West Virginia. I don't think there's going to be really any trap game for a team that I actually have going 6-6 this season. Making a bowl game, definitely better, like Ryan said before, better than last season. But I see him splitting their season.
Okay. Have we ever seen a team fall off like that before?
What?
Winning their conference championship and then going 2-10 the following year?
Yeah, we definitely have.
That's insane of a drop off.
Did Baylor went 2-10 last year?
Yeah.
We've definitely seen that. We've definitely seen that before. I couldn't tell you who right now, but I'm sure it's happened.
Yeah. Oh my God, get the hell out of here, Ad.
I mean, what was here? Actually, I'm curious.
All right. We got BYU.
Here we go. Here's BYU. Let's see.
Fighting Zach Wilson's.
Does BYU play Houston? No, they do not. So we don't get a battle of the Cougars. Damn it. Okay.
I mean,
okay.
Go ahead, Lucas.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, I was thinking about Auburn in 2010. They ran the table. They ran the table, won the Natty, and then went 8-5 the next year, which is not that big of a drop off, but it's still like.
Well, I would say by the next
it's still
year,
pretty big.
They went like 3-9 the very next year after that, and then that was 2012, and then 2013 they had that big bounce back year, the kick 6 and all that. Okay, here's BYU. Immediately, the two that stick out to me for hardest, I would say, is Texas, just being at Texas, potentially also at Arkansas. Is KJ Jefferson still there?
No, he got drafted.
Okay, it's Texas is hardest game. Easiest game. It's at West Virginia. Honestly, I could see West Virginia going like 2-10, but we'll get to them eventually. They'll be at the very end. But beyond that, that's probably the easiest. I don't know, maybe BYU I could see struggle. Maybe 4-8, 5-7.
I'm gonna go a little worse here. I think they go 3-9. They're losing Jaron Hall. They're losing Cody Epps, who's their top receiver after Puka Nacua got drafted. All their leading receivers have either transferred out or got drafted. Their leading rusher is gone. Their star quarterback is gone. Joining a new conference, I think all those factors, it really kind of screws BYU over a lot this season. Their easiest game, I think I agree, is that West Virginia. But I think after the first 2 wins of the season, they win that West Virginia game, and that's about it for BYU. So I guess it's going to be one of those welcome to the Big 12 BYU seasons.
I don't completely disagree. I do think it's going to be a tough season. I see them only winning 3 Big 12 teams or games this year. I do think they end their season off a little bit better than they start, but toughest game obviously at Texas. I think their easiest game at West Virginia because, again, I also think that they're not very good.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have them finishing 5-7 because they have two very favorable games to start the season against Sam Houston and Southern Utah. So those are 2 like pretty much easy games in the W column. I actually have them ending their season off winning. I have them beating Iowa State and Oklahoma at the end of the year. So those are 2 big wins for them late. But yeah, 5-7 for BYU. And I see them being that kind of 5-7, 6-6. Maybe we see like a 7-5, 8-4 team moving forward in the Big 12.
Yeah, I think that's obviously the big thing is how we think these new 4 teams will do going forward with the
adjustment.
Yeah, exactly. The
adjustment.
Because
it's different playing like Cincinnati would maybe play 2 Power 5 teams a year playing in the American. Now they're playing Power 5 teams to at least 10 games out of the year. So that's a big adjustment because I think a lot of people, like a lot of these teams like UCF, when they were, saying they won a national championship, and this is why the group of 5 teams don't get as much respect is because, yes, while you may have a good win over an Auburn team that was 10-2 that year, you beat some good teams like Cincinnati a few years ago, beat an 11-1 Notre Dame team. Do you think that they could have done that like other teams, like if they were in like the Big 12 or the Big 10 on a week-to-week basis? Because that's a lot different. It's a lot different going from group of 5 schedule.
But the other ththing is, even if you're in a conference, you're not going to be facing. You're not going to be facing like more than maybe one. You might. Most teams won't ever actually face a team that's undefeated or 11-1 or 10-2 even at the end of the season. They'll face kind of more mid-level, kind of mid-range teams, and you'll occasionally face those teams.
But the mid-range teams and Power 5 conferences are just flat out better than some of the top teams in these group of 5 conferences.
Yeah, that's true.
That's fair.
That was my point. But go ahead.
Hardest game. Honestly, I could see it potentially being at Pitt. Looking at it, because they get Oklahoma, and Kansas and UCF all at home. So I think it could be at Pittsburgh, could honestly be the hardest game. And I think that's kind of going to be a good indicator game, both of Cincinnati and Pitt, in terms of how good they actually are this year, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Easiest, Miami of Ohio, probably. Maybe, well, out of those, yeah, that. Or, again, West Virginia. It sounds like we all think West Virginia is going to be like a
bottom of the barrel.
Huh? Yeah, absolute bottom of the barrel team. It sounds like is what we think. And obviously, I'm sure plenty of people, if we were a much bigger audience or much bigger, people would not be very happy since I'm living in West Virginia. But yeah. So yeah, I think that'll be it. If they do win that Pitt game, I could honestly maybe see them starting at maybe 4-0 since they get Oklahoma at home. Maybe 4-1. Just depends on BYU, especially going to Provo, which is at high up altitude. That's an advantage for BYU as well. Yeah. That they'll be able to use. So teams will really have to adjust to the altitude. If they start off like 4-0, 4-1, I think you could see a maybe 8-4. I think it would be good because you're having them play against all the other 3 new teams: BYU, UCF, and Houston. So having all those games, having these teams play against each other, these new teams at least, will be a good barometer to see which of those new teams coming in are the best of the four.
So for me, looking at their schedule, I think their hardest game, and you guys probably disagree with me, I think their hardest game is Kansas. We'll get into Kansas a little later, but I'll explain why here when we get into Kansas. But I think their hardest game is Kansas. I think their easiest game that's non-group of five is probably UCF or Baylor. So I think I have them going 8-4. I think a trap game for them is that at Houston or at Pittsburgh.
I keep forgetting the trap game. My bad.
No, you're good. I think those are the two possible trap games for them. But overall, 8-4 for the first year in the Big 12 for Cincinnati, I think is a good season.
Yeah, I have Cincinnati. I think their toughest game is going to be also. No, I'm going to say their toughest game is actually going to be UCF.
I said UCF or Kansas for my toughest.
Yeah, we'll get into UCF later. But I do think their toughest game is going to be UCF. I think their easiest game is probably going to be West Virginia or maybe Houston. Kind of a pick 'em there. Trap game, maybe in Stillwater against Oklahoma. Oklahoma State, I think, is a trap game for them. Not that I really think there's much of a trap game for a 5-7 team, which is what I have them as, is 5-7.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's the same kind of route as BYU. I think it's just going to be kind of a rough time in a Power 5 conference for Cincinnati, especially after because Luke Fickell isn't there anymore, right?
Nope.
And
Desmond Ritter's gone. Their starting quarterback from last year is transferred out.
Yeah, everybody from that playoff team is gone. So I just don't think that they're going to be doing super, super well. I do think that being in the Big 12 is going to bring in some recruits for some of these teams, though, for sure.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So it's definitely going to help them a little bit, but it's still way tougher competition, as Ryan was saying earlier.
Okay. Ryan?
What?
Oh, did you already went?
Yeah, he already went.
Oh, sorry, I was distracted. Okay.
You're good.
Houston. The other Cougars. Okay.
All right. Go ahead, Connor.
They start off UTSA. I think that could be a loss right off the bat. We think UTSA is going to be good. Continue their.
They're returning everybody but their top receiver
and their offensive coordinator.
I still think, UTSA that probably could be a loss right there, right off the bat. Rice, I think I could see him going 2-. I could see him maybe going 3-2.
I could see him starting 0-3. To be honest with you.
Ooh, damn. Okay. I think that's obviously the UTSA game. Usually trap games are later in the season, but that's a trap game right off the bat at home. Also, I think Rice could be a trap game, obviously, right before you play your first conference game against TCU.
Notice that they play in Houston their first 4 games of the season.
Rice is at Houston. It's at home. Yeah, so they could have a major home field advantage against all the others, but still. And then they play.
Damn, so they play in Texas almost every game that they play this year. There are only 2 really away games.
You're right.
Kansas and Florida.
It is Kansas.
That's
and Florida.
Crazy.
Wow, you're right. Because Baylor. Wait.
They go to Houston pretty much every game.
Wait. They only have 4 road games. Houston or Rice, Texas Tech, Kansas State, and Baylor. Oh no, and sorry, UCF. But still, that's 7. That's only 5 road games.
5 road games, and they only have 2 games outside of the state.
And then, of course, one of those is at Texas Tech at Jerry World. It looks like
If their team was actually
that's not Jerry World. I forgot he went to.
If this team was actually good, like roster wise, this is the most favorable schedule I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to travel at all.
Yeah, you know how whenever the NFL schedule comes out, like it just came out, it was like, oh, the Seahawks are traveling the most of any team, even though, yeah, you know what I mean? And like last year, the Steelers didn't have a single game like west of the Mississippi all last season. They just had the least amount of travel. Houston probably has the least amount of travel of any team, Power 5.
Easily.
Yeah, probably. Because, I mean, they could probably just drive everywhere or take a short flight to most of these places. Yeah, Waco, Houston, Lubbock, Houston again. Definitely.
Well, what do you see for them? Hardest game, easiest game, trap game, and
hardest game
if there is one.
Hardest game at least will be having Texas at home. Hardest game on the road could be Kansas State potentially. Trap game, like I said, UTSA, maybe Rice. But I can kind of agree with Lucas that they could be 0-3 before they, you know what I mean? But I think they'll maybe lose to UTSA, beat Rice, lose to TCU, beat Sam Houston. I mean, they get an easy game against West Virginia. They get Baylor. 5-7, maybe 6-6. What was the record last time?
That's pretty generous. For me, I have them going 3-9. I think they start off with a loss against UTSA, beat Rice, lose to TCU, beat Sam Houston, lose to Texas Tech, beat West Virginia, and then lose the rest of their games.
Oh, my God.
Houston is not good. They lost their best receiver in Tank Dell to the draft, Clayton Tune.
Nathaniel Dell.
Yep. He's no longer there as well. They're starting quarterback. So, like, they're kind of in the same boat, but in a lot worse version of BYU.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I forgot about that. I remember Tank Dell was really big, really good receiver coming out of the draft. I forgot he was at Houston.
But in my opinion, their hardest game is at UCF. I think their easiest game is the West Virginia game because we all just think West Virginia is going to be god awful.
I think at this rate, we think West Virginia is going to go like 0-12 at this rate. It seems. Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not far off of Ryan. I do want to say, as I looked up some of like the distances, the furthest they travel is only a 13-hour drive.
Is that to Florida?
Yes, that's the furthest they travel. So the Manhattan Tech.
13 hours. It's only 13 hours from Houston to Florida.
To Orlando, yes.
Or Orlando,
and then from Houston to Manhattan, Kansas is only 10-hour drive.
That just shows how big Texas is, though.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're
states north.
So Houston to Lubbock is in the same state, but it's a like 8.5-hour drive.
Oh my God, that's ridiculous.
But still, the furthest they go is 13-hour drive. That's
the longest drive I've ever done was like 18 hours from Maryland to West Palm Beach to see my grandmother for Christmas.
Crazy to me. Right. Anyways, to go on to Houston. So I'm not far off of Ryan. I think their easiest game, obviously, West Virginia. I think their toughest game is going to be UCF. I actually have them. We're going to get into this, but I actually have them trap gaming Kansas State in Kansas.
Ooh.
Wait, is that the trap game? Is that a trap game for Kansas or for Houston?
For Kansas State.
Wow.
I have it as a trap game for Kansas State. I actually have Houston winning that as just like one of those like crazy upsets that we see this year.
Okay.
I do have them finishing 4-8 though, because I do have them starting off the season 0-3 against Rice, UTSA, and TCU. So yeah, 4-8 for Houston.
Okay, cool. Iowa State. Of course, they play Iowa.
Let's
team
speed it up a little bit too.
First team to 13 points wins.
Yes.
Pretty much. First team to
They get the fighting Tony Romos.
Yes, sir.
Oh, Northern Iowa. So they play Northern Iowa. They get Iowa at home. Okay, right off the bat, toughest game is Texas. They get Texas at home, though. It'd be interesting to see what Texas's schedule looks like since we've seen them a bunch of times already. But other than that, honestly, I think whoever – I'll say this, and this might make sense. Whoever wins the Iowa State game, whichever team wins that will have – well, honestly, I know it's kind of simplistic, but whoever wins that will have the better season of the two.
Probably.
And I think that'll really be a tone setter for each team's season. If one team loses badly, then I think they're going to obviously have a bad season. But if it's a close, hard-fought game, then I think they could rebound. But I could see them start off 3-0 potentially. If Iowa's offense is as bad as it was last year. Sorry, that's my phone. 6-6.
6-6.
I got them going 4-8. I think Iowa State's going to take a step back. They lost their top receiver as well. Their quarterback is garbage. The guy who was the backup to Brock Purdy last year. If you go watch that Iowa State offense, is just horrendous. So they're going to be god awful. I got them going 4-8. I think their toughest game is probably Texas or TCU. I think their easiest game is that Ohio game. If you're talking about Power 5,
Iowa,
BYU, easiest game. And then trap game, if I had to pick one, probably at BYU. At Ohio, because Ohio is actually a decent team.
My cousin will be very happy because that's where he went to Ohio University. So he'd be very happy if they won that game.
I completely agree. I have them at 4-8. I think their easiest game of the season, it really is between Cincinnati and BYU because I have both of them at 5 and 7. I have them about the same. However, I do have them beating Cincinnati and losing to BYU. So I guess I'll say Cincinnati. It's either way. Their toughest game, obviously, against Texas. But yeah, I have them. And I actually do, and we'll get to Kansas eventually, but this is another one of my trap games. I have them beating Kansas at home on homecoming. So
okay, interesting.
Kind of interesting. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, now we're at Kansas, like you said. Kansas. So here we go.
There you go.
What was that? Okay. Ooh, fine. We get Kansas versus your favorite team in the whole wide world, the Fighting Illini, or the Fighting Chase Browns. Yeah, hardest game right off the bat that I can see is at Texas. And another thing that I'm seeing is, other than who was it? The first team we looked at, I haven't seen like a big marquee non-conference game other than that Utah game for any of these.
To me, Illinois. I mean, Illinois went what 9-4 last year.
Yeah, other than what, Baylor playing Utah, like
I would say there's only a couple big non-conference games. Like we'll get to Texas Tech, they play Oregon week 2, and then like obviously the Arkansas game.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
I'll say this though,
nothing crazy other than obviously we'll get to Texas, and we all know that they play Bama week 2. So
I'll also say this: that Kansas-Illinois game, I feel like is going to be a prove-it game for both teams. I think whoever wins that game kind of asserts that last year wasn't a fluke, and that they're actually good teams. So I think that game's kind of like a prove-it. So go ahead, Connor.
No, I agree. I think that for either team, that for both teams, that is a good point. But yeah, hardest game right off the bat is just at Texas. You know, that's a big game. You know, we were all, especially me, I was riding the whole Kansas boat for a while there last year. Really sad that they weren't able to finish. What were they, 7? They were like 5-0 and then finished like 7-6 or 6-7. They lost that crazy bowl game to Arkansas.
Arkansas,
right.
Yeah, that was a really good game.
That was a classic. But if because Jalen Daniels is still there, right?
Yep, he's still there.
Yeah, so if he's back, if he's fully healthy, playing the way he was the first couple weeks, I think Kansas can do pretty good.
Kansas did not win a single game after Jalen Daniels got hurt.
No, they were 5-0, so they definitely won at least one.
No, never mind. He got hurt in the next game. He got hurt in that TCU game because they were 5-0 playing 5-0 TCU, and he got hurt first quarter.
But they lost that game, which means they did win at least one more game. But I can't remember.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Okay, but either way, I could see it potentially if he plays the way he was, being 4-0 going to that Texas game, and that'll be a big kind of prove it game, obviously for Kansas. You know, see how they stand up. Other than that, I think even if they lose that to Illinois, I think that 3-1 going to that Texas game is still feasible. I think they would beat UCF, maybe even beat Oklahoma State. I could see him maybe taking, you know, if Daniels plays the way I think he can, I'd say 7-5, 8-4 is potential. But that's just me. Like I said, Texas hardest game, trap game. Obviously K-State. Weird, they don't play K-State at the end of the season. They play Cincinnati. That's interesting. I've noticed that they moved all the rivalry games up 1 week, which is really weird. And easiest game, Texas Tech.
Nevada.
Huh?
Nevada.
Oh, sorry, I completely missed them. Sorry, that's 10. Yeah, that's Division I. Sure, that counts.
So I'll go next. I think their hardest game, like you said, is at Texas. I think their easiest game is against Iowa State and BYU. Trap game, if I had to pick one, is probably at Iowa State, just because it's at Ames. Iowa State always wins some weird game at Ames that they have no business winning. So I think to start up the season, they go into that Texas game 4-0. I think they lose to Texas and UCF back to back, but then I think they go on another winning streak where they win 3 straight. I think at that point they would be 4-2. They would be 7-2 going to Texas Tech. I think they beat Texas Tech in a close one. So that's 8-2, and then I think they dropped their final 2 games. So I got 8-4 for Kansas. I think Jalen Daniels proves this season that last year was not a fluke, and I think Kansas is actually a legit contender and a legit team in the Big 12.
He's the third. He'll be the third drafted QB in the draft after Williams and Drake May.
No, he will not be.
He won't.
He is not. People are already saying that Bo Nix is a round 1 quarterback, so don't even get me started.
If Jalen Daniels has a season, like a full season, and plays the way he started last year for an entire season, then maybe. But
he would have to have a Bryce Young type Heisman year. Like he would have to go crazy because he's.
But let's not act like last year. 5 weeks into the season,
he was probably the Heisman favorite. 5 weeks.
He was the betting odds favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. So that's what I mean. If he plays like he did all season for the first, like if he played how he did the first 5 games last year and plays like that all season, especially at Kansas.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. The unfortunate thing about the Heisman Trophy is it's about who's around you as well as who you are. So like, unless he has a Lamar Jackson type season, which he was not last year, having a Lamar Jackson type season. Lamar Jackson is one of a kind. There's nobody that will ever have a season like
he plays a lot like Lamar Jackson, but he doesn't have the same arm.
He's just not. Nobody's ever going to be Lamar. But that's the problem is that there's just nobody around him in Kansas. However, I agree 100%. I have them going 8-4. I have them dropping those last 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
I do have them losing the trap game that you just spoke about, Iowa State.
Wow, so you got them being 7-1 going at Iowa State.
Yeah, and then they lose 3 of their last 4. Because I just think that they're going to be 7. Think about it, they're going to be
6-1. They'd be 6-1 going to Iowa State.
Yeah, so they're going to be 6-1, right? Their only
They'll
loss,
be ranked.
Their only loss I have is to Texas. So I have them up there, and then they lose to Iowa State. I think that's just going to completely just demoralize them completely, and then fall in those 2.
Well, that team they showed their mental fortitude when they lost Jalen Daniels, and they just completely
fell apart.
Gave up. They fell apart for the rest of the season. Which,
it's also the amount the drop off they had from Jalen Daniels to what was his name?
Jason Bean.
He wasn't that bad though.
He wasn't bad.
He just wasn't the same.
He wasn't Jalen Daniels. He was the backup to Jalen Daniels for a reason.
Yeah.
But I'll just say this though. Jalen Daniels is the heartbeat of that team. And I think people don't talk enough about him because he plays at Kansas. But the numbers he was putting up last year through the first 5 games, to me, is more impressive than what a Caleb Williams or Drake May does because of what Lucas talked about before. What he does have around him. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally get what you're talking about. So you guys think 8-4? I think we were all unanimous on that.
Yeah.
But Kansas fans would be happy with that.
Yeah, they were happy with what they had last year. So,
Kansas State,
K-State.
Is Martinez back this year? Adrian Martinez?
Adrian.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm pretty sure it's the kid that won the Big 12 championship.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I forgot that he got hurt and that kid took over.
He was
good.
Okay. Missouri and
he got drafted by the Lions.
Adrian Martinez.
Yep. He was undrafted, but still.
Okay. I totally could see him being 4-0 going into that bye. Hardest game at Texas or at Kansas, depending how that game goes. Other than that, I could see him going 7-5, 8-4. Like I said, I think it's totally possible they could be 4-0 going into their bye. Having an early bye like that is good. Preparing yourself for the kind of the meat of your conference schedule. So easy or trap game would be at Missouri. Other than any of those other games, maybe at Kansas. That's just, even though it's not a top tier SEC team, it's a SEC team. Still weird to say that for Missouri, but whatever. So,
okay. So for me, easiest game I think is that game against Iowa State. I think they start off the season 4-0. They beat Oklahoma State. I think they lose at Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech is going to be sneaky good. They're very explosive on offense, as they always have been, and especially at Lubbock. I can see that being a trap game, and I think they will drop that. So they're going to be 5-1 going to TCU. I think they lose that one. I think they beat Houston, lose to Texas, beat Baylor. I think they lose to they beat Kansas, and then they beat Iowa State. So I think they go 9-3, 10-2. So I think that's a good year. I think they could honestly be back in the Big 12 championship picture this season.
Did we look up who their starting QB is or no?
It's the kid from the Big 12 title game last year. He started the last 5 games or something like that. He's pretty good.
Okay, gotcha.
I think he was like a freshman too, or like a sophomore or some shit. Anyways, I also have them finishing 9-3. Their only losses I have UCF, Texas, and I have them losing that trap game against Houston, just because it sits perfectly right between TCU and Texas, which are probably going to be their two toughest games. Obviously, I have them losing to UCF, so that's a tough game, but obviously the TCU game, the rematch from the Big 12 title game last year, is huge. And then they're going to be looking forward to going to Texas and then losing that Houston game. 9-3. Not much more I can say about Kansas State. I do not think they're going to be in the Big 12 title, though.
Okay. Oklahoma, stupid. Go away, stupid. I don't want Washington Commanders tickets. Dylan wants that.
Yeah.
Okay. Oklahoma. So, do we think they have a bounce back year after not doing? Yes. Do we think they go all the way back to what they were before? Do they?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Okay. Obviously, immediately the very first one, obviously hardest game will be, and I think this is a very good barometer test for them, is the.
Their quarterback for K-State, by the way, was Will Howard. That's who.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Red River rivalry. Yeah, Red River rivalry. If Texas blows them out again, then Oklahoma. It doesn't matter what Oklahoma does the rest of the season. It's a bad season for them, pretty much.
Yeah.
I can't believe they still got blown out like they did last year. That was really surprising. Other than that, toughest game, maybe the Kansas game at Kansas. Easiest game, West Virginia.
Now they still have Dylan Gabriel. So I know he had a bad season last year, but he was also injured. So
okay, whatever.
He had that Tua injury, wasn't he? Concussed the entire season.
Yeah, he played concussed basically the entire year.
Yeah, something like that. So, okay.
I'll go next. So I think they're. I think I'm going to trap games first because I think the first two games, not the first game, but the next two games are trap games. Oklahoma was a hair away from losing to Tulsa last year at home. They're going on the road at Tulsa, which anytime we see a Power 5 team go on the road to a Group of 5 team, we always see weird things happen. So SMU especially is going to be a solid team. We saw what they were last year. I know they lost a lot of players, but it's still SMU.
Literally everybody.
So I think they start off 3-0, but I would not be surprised if they ended up being 1-2 going at Cincinnati.
That'd be hilarious.
I would not be surprised with how bad and atrocious their defense is. That might be the worst, which is weird because they have a great defensive coach, but their defense last year was the worst in school history. So that's bad. But anyway, I could see them going 4-8, 5-7.
Oh, I didn't get my record. Sorry.
No, you're good. I don't think they make a bowl game this year. I think their schedule is too tough. I think, the games against Texas, Cincinnati, Kansas, TCU, and UCF are just too much. I think they're too much. So yeah, that's my thing is I think they go 4-8, 5-7.
There you go. So this is the first one where we are actually quite the opposite. I have them going 8-4 this season. I think they do have a bounce back year from last year. I actually do have them winning. I can never say this. It's like I had a stroke. The Red River rivalry. There we go. I gotta slow it down. I do actually have them winning that game, which will be
really?
I do.
Really?
I just think it's going to be one of those like rivalry games where Texas kind of like just overlooks Oklahoma, and then Dylan Gabriel goes for 304 tuds.
Let me ask you this, Lucas: are you fine with us clipping that? And if Oklahoma beats Texas.
You mean Texas?
Of
If
course.
Texas beat Oklahoma.
Yeah.
You mean if
Of
Texas
course,
beat Oklahoma.
clip it. Either way, I don't care. It's. I have a couple hot takes in the Big 12 this year, but clip it either way. I do have them winning that game, but I do also have them losing the last 2 games of the season. I do have them losing to BYU as like kind of a trap game heading over to Utah to play BYU.
Mhm.
And then I obviously just think TCU is a better team. But yeah, 8-4 for what's his name, and I do think they have a better defense this year. I think
Brent Venables.
Brent Venables, yeah, I think a big thing about defense too, because if you look at Oregon last year, the defense was pretty bad, and obviously Dan Lanning was one of the better defensive coaches that we've ever gotten. I think a lot of it has to do with just
The way Lincoln Riley
get-
left that
get-
program, you think that had to do with something with it?
well, just getting your feet settled in. Obviously, them losing a bunch of transfers doesn't help, never helps.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
getting your feet settled in, getting the recruits that you like, and just getting everything settled, I think is going to make a huge difference for obviously Dan Lanning and Brent Venables.
Mhm. All right, who we got next?
Probably Oklahoma State, yeah.
Yeah, the Oklahoma State.
I think they're going to be really bad this year. I'll already say that off the bat. They're going to be really bad.
I think they're going to be pretty bad, but they really do not have a hard schedule at all.
They don't. But I think they might be the third worst team in the Big 12 behind West Virginia,
Are you talking
Iowa
about
State,
Oklahoma
maybe.
or Oklahoma State?
Oklahoma State. I think they might be one of the worst teams behind West Virginia, Iowa State, BYU.
Is Spencer
In the Big 12.
Sanders still there?
No, he's gone. He was a sixth-year senior last year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I think might help them, to be honest. It might be a good thing that he's gone.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That guy threw more crunch time interceptions than anybody in history. Like, I swear. It was like he would have a great game, and once the game was on the line, he'd be like, "Oh, the defense is open."
or his fumbles. His fumbling issues were also an issue as well.
Terrible.
Could they theoretically be like 0-3 or not 0-3? That would be
If they lose to Central Arkansas.
You know what?
Hilarious. They lost to Central Arkansas. and
Ryan,
Southern
somebody's got to get the Charles Barkley terrible thing on here so we
They're
can
just
start,
horrible.
so
We
we can
got- we
start
definitely
playing
got
that.
We definitely
Terrible.
need to. We definitely need to add
So
that.
funny.
Terrible.
So funny.
Okay, so I think they could be maybe 3-1 at least at the bye, but other than like West Virginia, I think they could lose all the other games. So what, 4-8? Hardest game, Kansas or Oklahoma at home, especially since Oklahoma owns the Bedlam rivalry. It's so weird that game is so early in this. It is there like in the beginnings of November. That's such a weird date for that game. That is really weird. But yeah, 4-8. Okay,
I respect that.
Ryan.
All right,
Ryan's-
so I'll go next. I was getting this thing set up, but oh man, I might be the only one here. I think they lose to Drew Pine and the Fighting Sun Devils.
Oh, that's where Drew Pine went. Oh my
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think actually they got Jaden Rashada too, as they're in Arizona State, which is kind of wild. So I think they go 2-2 to start the year. I think they lose at Iowa State, even though I think Iowa State's god awful. I could honestly see them losing to South Alabama. We forget South Alabama was 11-1 last year. Their only loss came at UCLA with a missed field goal late in the game. So that South Alabama team is really good. I think they're returning basically everybody. So 2-2. I think they lose to Kansas State, Kansas. So 2-4. They beat West Virginia 3-4. Lose to Cincinnati. Lose to Oklahoma. Lose to UCF. Lose to Houston, and lose to BYU. 3-9 for me. At the very most, 4 or 5-7. because I think they play a lot of bad teams as well. I don't think they're a bowl team. I think it's a rebuilding year for Oklahoma State.
Whose dog is barking?
Mine. Won't shut up.
It's a let's go. It's a nice. It's that brings it all together.
There you go. So for me, I actually have them finishing 7-5. And that's mostly because I think they have a pretty favorable schedule against some not very good teams. I was I was juggling that Arizona State game. I really wanted to give it to ASU, but with the whole new coaching staff, it's really hard to give that to them, especially.
You don't believe in Drew Pine?
Well, especially, and I love Kenny Dillingham.
That's terrible.
I love that. There we go. We need that. We need that in our brands. We need that.
Oh, there we go. It showed up for me on the stream, but not on here. Do it again.
That's interesting.
Do it again.
I got it.
That's terrible.
There you go.
Nice. And I was perfectly cut, so it actually finishes the whole thing. It doesn't just cut it at the end for some reason.
But anyways, yeah, it was hard for me to give that to Arizona State. So I didn't. I do have them losing all of I have them actually losing to West Virginia in West Virginia.
Oh no. Anyway, last week.
One of the few games that I actually have West Virginia winning, I think, is against Oklahoma State. But just because their season is so favorable, with some of these teams, I couldn't help but give them 7 wins.
That's terrible.
It's not terrible.
All right, let's move on.
Okay, next is, oh my God, we got to hurry this up. We got TCU, and we still have 5 more to go. Jeez.
That's all right. These ones are
making our lives difficult with these 4 new teams, God damn it.
There's a lot more teams, but we'll speed it up.
All right, let's speed it up a little.
Oh, TCU versus Colorado.
We've been talking about this for a while.
Not even going to be close.
Yeah. All right.
Actually,
my phone's about to die. I'm about to plug it in.
I'll go first then. First of all, TCU is going to go 11-1. I think their only loss is at Kansas State. It's on the road. They get all their tough games at home. Their toughest game to me is Texas, but they get Texas at home. I know that people are going to say, oh, they lost Max Duggan. They lost Quentin Johnston. They still have Darius Davis, who is their number 2, actually their leading receiver in terms of yards. They got him returning. They got the running back, the 5-star running back transfer from Alabama, who's going to be the starter for them. They got, I believe, they're starting running back from last year as well. So they're returning everybody except.
You mean Quandre Miller? He got drafted.
Okay, never mind. Anyway, the only people they lost was Max Duggan and Quentin Johnston and Keandre Miller, and they replaced those with guys who are really good.
Darius Davis got drafted by the Chargers.
Oh, really? I thought he was a junior.
I was going to say, because I was pretty sure, because I know that the Chargers drafted their 2 best receivers, being Quentin Johnston and Darius Davis.
They didn't even need that many receivers. But anyway, people forget that Chandler Morris was the starting quarterback. He beat out Max Duggan for the starting job last year. Due to an injury in week 1, he lost the job, and I think he was out actually for the entire year. But he's back now, and I'm getting on the Chandler Morris hype train. I watched the spring game. The kid's an absolute stud. Not as big as Max Duggan, but he's faster, a lot more agile, has a better arm, which is crazy to say. I think TCU was not a fraud last year. I got them going 11-1.
I guess I'll go next before Connor. I do not have them going 11-1. I actually have them going 9-3. I think they lose their toughest games of the season, being Texas, Kansas State, and Oklahoma. Those are the 3 toughest games they have. I think they lose all 3 of them. The rest of the schedule is pretty favorable, though. So I do think they're going to start. What do I have? What is
5
that?
and 6 and 0.
7-0 to start. Yeah, 7-0 to start the season. And then they lose at Kansas State. Then they go down, lose at Texas, and then Oklahoma. So I do not think they make another appearance at the Big 12 championship this next season.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I could definitely see them being 6-0 or 7-0 before that K-State game. They could win that, maybe. I think K-State will miss Deuce Vaughn a lot as well. I think that'll be a big thing, and it'll be really which team misses their star running back the most. Have Deuce Vaughn or Quandre Miller for TCU. But yeah, I could totally see them splitting the back half of their schedule, those last 4, maybe beating Oklahoma potentially. Yeah, I'd say 9-3, maybe 10-2. I think that they could make the conference championship.
Yeah, and even if they go 10-2, because the Big 12, as we've known for years, usually is like the Pac-12 and they beat up on each other. 10-2 very easily could be enough to get into the Big 12 title, depending on tiebreakers and all that stuff.
Not for me.
Not for you.
Okay. We'll get to that.
Oh, wait.
Not this time. You're wrong.
We're back.
No, we got you.
When Texas wins tonight.
No way.
Against the mighty SEC.
No way.
Texas is back.
This one was invented by a writer.
There you go. No SEC teams on the schedule, which is actually Bama.
Alabama. That's why I played it too.
There you go.
Obviously, that's the hardest game right there for them. Obviously, that's a really big barometer test for them. If Texas does win that, then we'll just be playing that we'll be playing what you just played in irony, honestly, potentially. But it is a very favorable potentially. I think other than Bama, the 3 hardest games will be Kansas, Oklahoma, and K-State. But I could see them going 5-1, maybe 6-0 in the back half. They have a perfect split schedule with the bye right in the middle of the season.
Crazy.
They could be 5-1, maybe 4-2. I think the highest they could. I think the floor 9-3, ceiling could be 11-1 with maybe a loss to Bama. If they win that game versus Bama, then yeah, people will be saying Texas is back, but we'll have to still wait and see until they get to the actual end of the season.
All right, for me, I got them going 9-3. I don't think Texas is back yet. I really like Quinn Ewers. I like what they're bringing back. They've got the fastest receiver in college football, Xavier Worthy. I like their offense is going to be really good. Maybe the best offense in college football. Again, the defense is atrocious for Texas. That's what cost them many games last year. That's why they lost 4 games last year. It's like their defense appeared like they showed up for that game against Alabama, but the rest of the season it's like they took a rain check. So I think they go 9-3. They very easily could go 10-2. I have them losing to TCU on the road. I have them, I think they could lose that game at Baylor. I think they lose at Alabama though for sure. And I think that Texas Tech, Kansas State, and Kansas are teams that could give them that third loss, depending on how Texas plays.
Fair enough. I do not disagree with Urban Meyer's assessment of this Texas Longhorns team. I do think they have one of the best, if not the best, rosters in all of college football this year.
They have the best offensive roster.
I think they have one of the best rosters in all of college football this year. I only have them losing 1 game, and that's to Oklahoma. I actually have them beating Alabama, and that's because I think Alabama is going to have a down year this year. And by down year, I mean 10-2.
Wait, so Lucas,
season.
We'll get to that.
So Lucas, are you ready to say this?
Texas is back, folks.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that once we get to the end.
Hold it till the end of the season. How about that?
We'll get to that till once we get to the end of this of the stream and we talk about our conference champions. We'll get to that, but I do think they beat Bama, and it's only because I do think Bama's going to have a down year. Like I said,
you don't have faith in Tyler Buckner leading Alabama to a natty. That's
I don't
crazy.
even. I
Actually, straight up, I know we haven't gotten there yet. I don't really, at this point, with the fact that you know who any of other than Buckner, who any of Alabama.
The fact that
I don't trust any of them. I really
it's
don't.
crazy that Alabama has 6 quarterbacks on scholarship right now that were all 5 stars at one point in their high school career.
And we don't
not
trust
one
any
of them. None of they don't trust any of them.
And
That
here's
is funny.
I am very it's very possible that Alabama finishes the season 9-3, and we'll get that to when we do the SEC show. But yeah, so I have them going 11-1. I have them going to the Big 12 championship game.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, okay. Next we have Texas Tech. We really got to wrap this up, guys.
Well, and then after this, real quick, we'll give our championship predictions, who we think wins, and then any potential Heisman candidates in the Big 12.
Okay. Hardest game is at Texas, but yeah, I think having Oregon coming in.
I was going to say Oregon's their toughest game.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's a good barometer test. If they keep it relatively close and it's a shootout, I think would set up pretty good.
It's the Tyler Shuck revenge game.
Lucas, I will say, Tyler Shuck's not even the starter this year. It's the oh my God, what's his name? It's Donovan something.
The only reason why Shuck didn't start most of the year last year is because
I know that he came back and he lost his job to a true freshman last year.
Okay.
He'll start.
I could see him go 3. They could start 3-1, maybe even 4-1 before that Baylor game. Maybe 4-2 before K-State. 5-2 before the bye.
It'd be 5-3 before the bye.
Dude, those last 4 games.
Sorry, those last 4 games are tough. I could see him losing all 4 of those, honestly. So 5-7, 6-6 if they win one of the other ones in the front half of the schedule. I could see him losing all 4 of those final games.
Okay. For me personally, I have them going 6-6, but, and I'm going to say this now, I guarantee Texas Tech will upset one of the top teams in the Big 12, whether that be Kansas, TCU, UCF, Texas, or Kansas State.
So they're going to win one of those last 4 games, basically.
They're going to win. They're going to upset one team. They do it every year. They're going to do it again this year. I'm telling you right now, Lucas, I think Oregon wins that game, but I don't think that's a game Oregon can take very lightly. I think that that's a trap game right there. That is because with how explosive Texas Tech is on offense.
Well, I don't think it's a trap game per se, but I will say Oregon hasn't. I think they've only won 1 game in the last 20 years in the state of Texas. So that says a lot. However, I just think this Oregon roster.
Oh no, I think you guys should win that game.
So
but
much better.
I think it's more of you guys can't take that game lightly. If you guys mess around with that game.
After what we did against Washington and Oregon State last year, because we took both of those teams very lightly, I think we could have easily beat both of those teams.
No, you should have beat both of them.
After that, I don't think Dan Lanning is even going to take Portland State lightly in week 1. I think he's going to try to Chip Kelly run the score up on everybody.
But either way, I got them going 6-6. I think they make a bowl game this year. But like I said, they will upset one of the powerhouses in the Big 12 this year.
Okay.
Very, very fair. I have them going 5-7. I could see 6-6 because I think the Baylor game was a toss-up for me. But they just have a tough schedule. I mean, Kansas State, TCU, Kansas, UCF, Texas, and Oregon. Those are tough games, man.
Yeah.
Those are really tough games.
No, I agree. I could see him struggling there. Okay.
So
I think
5-7.
I don't know about you, Lucas, but I think they'll play a lot of close games though. I don't think they'll get blown out very much.
I could see them playing tough for sure. They did last year.
Yeah,
Okay.
they were in pretty much every game last year, I believe.
Okay, UCF. Ooh,
Ooh, a
they
very
play Boise
favorable
at
schedule.
Boise.
Very favorable schedule.
Well, I mean, they play Oklahoma at Oklahoma, Kansas at Kansas, Kansas State at Kansas State, or Boise State at Boise State on the blue turf. That's tough. However, I guess you guys can get into it. But.
Okay. Yeah, hardest game probably is either at Boise State, honestly, or at Oklahoma. Maybe at Kansas. Like you said, those are probably the three hardest. Easiest game, West Virginia. Obviously getting to face Kansas State. Oh no, that's at Kansas. Kansas State. Never mind. If they got either of the K-State or the Kansas games in Florida, I think that would be a very favorable, like early in the season with still the Florida Heat. I think that's advantage UCF. But I think they could still be 3-0 going to that K-State game. Maybe make it 4-2 at the bye. Win West Virginia, Cincy, Texas Tech, 7-5, maybe 8-4.
Yeah, this is a UCF team that I'm very high on, as you guys will see from my record prediction for them.
The GOAT, John Rice Plumlee, baby.
Yes, sure. Yes, sir. The best named quarterback in college football.
John Rice Plumlee. Sorry,
Yes.
I just hearing you say that makes me think of John. What's his name? John David Booty or whatever his name is.
Yeah, John David Booty.
So I got UCF going 10-2. Their first year in the Big 12.
Damn.
I got them going 10-2. Their only losses, I think, come earlier in the season at Kansas State and at Kansas. Based on my record predictions, you guys can pretty much figure out who my Big 12 title teams are at this point. But I'll listen it off to Lucas. I think really quick, trap game at Texas Tech. Like I said, that game can very easily be an upset.
Yeah, so I actually have UCF finishing 11-1.
Oh my God,
I think they go to the Big 12 championship. Their one loss I have in their trap game right before the bye week. I had them losing to Kansas.
Wow.
But I had them running through the back half of their schedule pretty easily. I mean, I think their toughest game is probably Kansas State, even though I obviously have them losing to Kansas. I think Kansas State's going to be really tough. They play Baylor. Baylor could be a trap game as well, just because it's right in between their two road trips to Kansas. But yeah, I'm all for Gus Malzahn and
they're
what he's
returning
doing.
their entire team as well from last year.
Yeah, just everything that he's doing right now, I just think it's great. And then plus on top of that, you obviously got to look at what John Rice Plumlee has done. You know, I mean, you look at the spring game where he threw for like 1 million yards. Then right after that, hit 2 homers for the baseball team, which is
and you know what's crazy? My favorite John Rice Plumlee moment is last year when they split with Tulane, and UCF went into they're like midway through the third quarter and they were down like 28 points against Tulane.
Yeah.
And Plumlee led them to a 28-point comeback victory to beat Tulane. I think UCF is really good. And also I think it's also very favorable that they don't have to play Texas. They don't have to face they escape having to play Texas. And this is all I got to say about this, Connor.
That's terrible.
They beat the Dukes and that's it.
That's terrible.
Connor, you're muted. You're muted
Myself.
again.
I didn't mute myself.
There you go.
What the hell?
I don't know why I did
Okay,
that.
was weird.
But
Okay. Yeah. 1-11.
Schedule.
Maybe they get a win in conference. 2-10. But yeah, Penn State backyard brawl. They get Pitt at home. Pitt's much better than them. They get all three. They got all four of the new teams too. They got Houston, UCF, BYU.
let's just say it, Connor. 2-10. 2-10.
2-10.
There's no need to talk about West Virginia because
I have 3-9 actually. I have them beating Duquesne, Oklahoma State, and BYU.
That's terrible.
That was great. That was great timing.
That was great timing.
But I do see them winning those 3 games.
That's terrible.
Okay,
I'm taking away your privileges.
Ryan, what's your thought?
I said 2-10.
Okay, so you are 2-10.
They're going to be god awful. They might get a win against like BYU or Houston, but I think that's it. That's their only.
Did you know
shots.
so something crazy? UCF's highest recruited player of all time was in 2023, and it was the number 95 ranked player in the country. He was a 4-star, their highest rated recruit of all time.
Wow,
That's insane.
that is crazy.
All right, so
Okay.
we'll start
So-
with Connor. We'll start
Yes.
with Connor. Conference championship game predictions.
UCF versus Texas. Texas wins.
All right, Lucas.
I also have UCF versus Texas, and I have UCF actually winning, going 12-1 on the season. And that's why I don't say
Pulling a VT. They're pulling a VT, winning the conference in their first year. VT.
This
That's
is
why-
why, Lucas, we need you to post this on the Twitter.
That's why
Yeah, just
I'm
not this
saying that Texas is not back.
Fair enough. Okay. Okay, Ryan.
Not this time.
Not this
For real.
time.
So I got UCF versus TCU in the Big 12 championship. Connor, you're muted. So that's who I got. I got TCU winning it. I think they win back-to-back Big 12 titles. This might come back and bite me in the ass, but I was right last year about having TCU in the Big 12 title game. I think I had Kansas State winning it last year, actually, too. So I'm 1-0 so far for the Big 12. So I mean, I really am on the Chandler Morris hype train, and I think TCU is going to prove this year that it was not a fluke last year.
This man was a bona fide scrub. He can't play.
Whose privileges was that?
There you go.
Okay. So
But anyway,
there we go.
I think
that is our.
we got Heisman trophies. Who in the Big 12 is a Heisman trophy and cannot pick the same guy?
Jalen Daniels. Calling him now.
Easy for me. Rice Plumlee, baby. Easy.
Walker Howard.
Easy for me.
Rice
Walker
Plumlee.
Howard for me.
What school is he at?
UCF.
It's
Okay.
crazy. We're talking
Cool.
about Big 12 Heisman potential winners, and nobody took the Texas quarterback. That's
It's Quinn Ewers, and we have no
Ewers.
idea what to think, honestly.
Well, yeah, because I mean, like, if you think about Heisman, right? I think about the absolute best player as like the best player in college football.
Mhm.
Looking at John Rice Plumlee's stats from last season, he had just under 1,000. He had just under 1,000 rushing yards. He had 2,500 passing yards, and he had, I think, 25 total touchdowns to 8 turnovers.
Wow.
So, like,
So Lucas, are you going to post that on our Twitter? Like,
I think he could go crazy.
Are you going to post those predictions on our Twitter for the Big 12 this
Nope,
week?
not. After the ACC stuff,
He's holding
I'm
off.
not doing it.
He's just holding off.
I'm not doing it.
Okay.
Really quick, who is better? Who was a better UCF quarter, John Rice Plumlee, or who was the guy that was their
Mackenzie
quarterback when they
Milton,
went-
Mackenzie Milton, dude. Mackenzie
Okay.
Milton was something else, but he just, I mean, had the unfortunate injury. I think they would have been
Playoff contenders?
Playoff
Stay healthy?
contenders, yeah, I really do. But things happen.
Yeah,
They would have actually won a national championship, Lucas. What?
They definitely would not have won it.
Okay. Next week, are we doing Pac-12?
Big Ten.
Yep.
Big Ten.
Big Ten.
Big Ten, then Pac-12, then SEC.
SEC. Yep.
Gotcha. Okay, so that is the upcoming schedule for this. But Josh will hopefully leave Barstool alone and come back to us, hopefully, for next week. But for the Week Zero podcast, make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. For Lucas, the Gus Bus is rolling every night. For Ryan, Lakers get swept in the Western Conference Finals. Fravel. I am Connor Bear Kugaitz Doherty. This has been the Week Zero podcast. We will see you again next week. And stay